Hello everyone, welcome back to TouchTheFireTwice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do, I suppose, an in-depth sniff comparison review, but more of a from the vault review, which is to say, if you watched my series, Slatkin & Co. From the Vault, Harry Bring Them Back, a 5-part series, then you'll know that I was kind of digging into my collection, looking at primarily my Slatkin & Co. Bath & Body Works combo candles from, say, 2009 to 2012 or 13, to say, okay, what are some candles that Slatkin & Co., Harry Slatkin, released with partnership with Bath & Body Works many years ago. We haven't really seen them return to Bath & Body Works. We may or may not have seen them return to Homeworks or the various brands that Harry has created over the years. Now, of course, coming back to Slatkin & Co. with Homeworks and Scentworks and Aroma Home, and hopefully a higher-end pure Slatkin & Co. collection or line, which TBD, haven't heard anything official on that one way or the other at this point. And so I figured, I really enjoyed digging into my vault, my stash from back in the day, since I've amassed a fairly significantly large collection. And I know that, a lot of candle reviewers or fragrance enthusiasts just come on and talk about, all right, here's the latest and greatest, here's what I think, go buy it, which I do that a lot. That's, I think, a huge value of, partially why we do what we do is because we're just passionate about it and don't really have people, around us maybe that are as passionate about it. So we want to talk about it with others and kind of build that community and share like, hey, I like this. Do you like this? If you do, go get that sort of deal. But part of it is also just the love we have to talk about it, to find out what is around and kind of just learn. For me, at least, it really, I consider myself a fragrance enthusiast, educator, and reviewer, in the sense that, sometimes hopefully I can teach you all something, and sometimes we can learn together, because I'm Googling before the video to learn, okay, what is the difference exactly between this note and that note? And we're gonna learn together, because that's the only way to learn, is by researching and being curious. And so, kind of scratching that curiosity, I figured, well, wouldn't it be fun to do some From the Vault reviews? So the series of Harry, Bring Them Back has been completed since I did spring, summer, winter, fall, and sort of the year-round aromatherapy scents through those, massive videos with stacks and stacks of candles, where I was figuring out some of my favorites over the years that I'd love to see reimagined through Slatkin & Co. And I figured, let's kind of do the same deal, but with some From the Vault candles that honestly will probably mostly be Slatkin & Co. Bath & Body Works era, but there are also older Bath & Body Works candles post-Slatkin that would still be 8 or almost 10 years old at this point. So it's still worth kind of pulling out and saying, hey, I love this. Let me talk to you about what I liked about it. Let's learn together, or just do sort of that in-depth sniff and comparison review, not for the purpose of, hey, go buy it before it sells out, but for the purpose of, hey, isn't this interesting? And let's see if there's anything else like this out there. So I'm gonna start that as my sort of new series here. And gonna start today with Slatkin & Co. Fresh Nectar. Now, what's cool with this one to me is I actually did not purchase this, back in, this was from 2009. Did not purchase it in 2009, actually found it on eBay within the past few months as I was doing my From the Vault series, because when I was doing that, I was like, oh man, I really wish I had another Seaside Escape, and found one of those and grabbed it off of eBay. Saw this and thought, man, that really looks interesting. What could it be like? Some of my favorite scents were from that era, so I grabbed it. It was a really good price. Actually, it was less than a current day, full price Bath & Body Works candle, so worth it. And so burned it, tried it a few times, gonna do an in-depth sniff comparison. What makes it really tricky though is this was from early 2009, literally poured on the 96th day of 2009. So we're talking, what is that? Early April. And this was right before they started actually adding the notes to the bottom of the candle. So this just tells you sort of details of the candle, of the brand itself. But as luck would have it, though there's nowhere on the internet that I could find notes for a Slatkin & Co. Fresh Nectar candle, one of my frequent commenters, FragranceJournalist, who has really interesting insights and I think, really kind of a developed nose and sort of fragrance palette, and mentioned Fresh Nectar, and that she actually believes that it could potentially be a duplicate or sort of shared fragrance from a Henri Bendel candle. L Brands purchased Henri Bendel, and they had a fragrance collection that it was one of those things where, L Brands owning Henri Bendel and Bath & Body Works, and certainly White Barn, Slatkin & Co. kind of under that tier, as well as Victoria's Secret. A lot of the, behind the scenes, sort of on the business working from one brand to the other could be shared across. So, if they're doing Bath & Body Works candles, it's going to be a lot of the same people working on, say, the Victoria's Secret candles, or in this case, potentially the Henri Bendel candles. That's not fully confirmed. That's a I think probably fairly safe assumption, certainly based on, you know, when they purchased C.O. Bigelow, all of a sudden one of the Slatkin & Co. scents appeared as an ocean candle in C.O. Bigelow packaging, but very clearly the same 3 wicks, the same lids, the same sniff, just with a different name and different branding. So that's what L Brands does as sort of that parent company, right? So all that to say, good chance that a Henri Bendel candle from the 2009-10 era could have been a Slatkin & Co. scent. You know, Henri Bendel, even perhaps before the L Brands partnership, maybe was doing partnerships with Slatkin & Co. as sort of, you know, we know that Slatkin & Co. pre-L Brands was working with other luxury brands to be their, you know, fragrance sort of consultant or build the home fragrance arm of that business. So really interesting sort of how the fine fragrance world and the fine home fragrance world works like that. And so FragranceJournalist mentioned that they thought that perhaps this Fresh Nectar was similar to the apricot candle from Henri Bendel. I'll read you the notes on that, and then I'll get into what I think of this one. So the notes on the Henri Bendel apricot candle was simply fresh peach and juicy nectarine with rustic Turkish apricots, blended with ripe black currants and a touch of cinnamon, clove, and grated nutmeg to create this delectable delight. Now they had lotus, they had fig, they had firewood, they had a ton of fragrances there before Henri Bendel was fully discontinued, and the fragrances were, along with that, discontinued again, early, you know, 2010s. And so maybe it is, maybe it's not, hard to say. So I'm really doing a true blind sniff on this. If there's anyone out there, fragrance enthusiast or Slatkin & Co. employee, would love to hear if anyone knows notes of this, because this is during the era when I feel like a lot of the fragrances were really these traditional, straightforward. I believe there was like a basil and tea. So many scents were just this kind of 1 or 2 notes. It was less about, now, don't get me wrong, I love my blueberry cheesecakes and all that stuff, but it was less about going like mass hysteria over these crazy blends. It was a little bit more, you know, subdued and bringing that fine home fragrance to more of a mass appeal. And Fresh Nectar is one of the ways they did that very early on in 2009. So this is your 14.5 ounces. It is, I believe, a different blend of wax. As you can see here, it does say on the bottom, I'll read this to you and show you, just Slatkin & Co. Fresh Nectar. The 3 bullet points were highly fragranced candle created exclusively by Harry Slatkin and developed and tested by our team of home fragrance experts, made using the highest concentration of fragrance oils, an exclusive blend of vegetable wax and lead-free wicks for optimal performance, burn time of approximately 40 to 65 hours, net weight 14.5 ounces, metal lid made in India. So that's what that looks like here on the bottom. But the wax formulation, I believe, is different because when this has, I bought this unburned, which was a nice find. The 2 burns I've done, the wax is kind of mottled. There you can see when it dries. It's still a good firm wax, lots of oils in there. It's a little soft, but not, you know, it's a tiny bit softer than the Bath & Body Works candles we know of today, but not like a stick your finger in it, like, you know, a really, really soft soy or something like that. It had a beautiful burn, I will say. You know, look at this candle. This is a yellow candle. If this was gonna get sooty or just murky or grody, it could have happened by the 2nd or 3rd burn here, and it didn't. And you can see there's a bit of a demarcation line where it burned 2 here. Beautiful pull, great throw. Interestingly, didn't have to trim these wicks. They did get the little white tips, which, you know, folks have been around for a while. Certainly know Kent at the Candle Channel will talk about the pros and cons of the different wicks and kind of the science behind it. Sometimes you get those white tips, and that's not always a good sign. You know, is it better to have those versus the big mushroom tops? Hard to say, but it burned beautifully, pulled out very well, really nice throw, clean burn. This is a good quality candle from 2009. Not sure why Bath & Body Works over the years has changed it, other than my only guess could be to cheapen the expense. Sniffing this, Fresh Nectar. Wasn't sure what to expect other than something sweet, floral nectar, actual fruit nectar, because this does look like an apricot on the picture there. And it's beautiful. I would love to see this actually reimagined, going back to my other videos. This is springy, could almost be summery, but could almost also just be a year-round scent, though I'd say lean towards your spring scents. It is the nectar. It's kind of like a play of nectar of the fruit and of the flower, because it is a very sweet, almost like a simple syrup. So not like a thick, heavy apricot juice, but if you were to sort of clarify it, take all of the, you know, the actual meat of the fruit out of there so that it's clear, to get really just like the nectar, the juice, you've got some of that, but potentially also if there are, fruit trees, flowering trees, if there is a nectar to the flower, I could see that being in here as well, because it's almost as if honeysuckle, not like the honeysuckle candles we have that are a bit powdery, sweet, but a little bit powdery and floral and, intense, like a strong hot summer day. But if you were ever a kid and you kind of pulled the tip off, like the stamen, I want to say that it is, off of a honeysuckle, and then it would just pull out one little drop of, I suppose, the nectar, and you just dab it on your tongue, and it was this sweet, sweet, wasn't viscous, just thin, just almost like a thin honey, little tiny sweetness. That is really what I get in here as well, though not honeysuckle specifically, just a general nectar. The other things I get from this, maybe the tiniest bit of a creamy mint in the background, though not a peppermint, barely a spearmint. One of those things that could be on the bottom, but most people will be like, I don't smell that. I think could be in there. But what I'm really getting as well is just a little hint of like a spice, almost like a really soft Ceylon cinnamon, not baking spices, but just more of a raw form of a spice, not spicy, a soft warmth that a spice would bring, which you think nectar of apricot and a bit of some sort of floral and a spice, like that seems strange until you think about two candles I'm actually gonna compare it to. This is, the 2021 packaging, but think of the ye old 2010, 2011 Tropical Spice from Slatkin & Co. with notes of Tahitian vanilla, fresh coconut cream, dash of nutmeg, and cinnamon stick. Tropical Spice. It is creamy, it is summery, it is fresh. This one, of course, being coconut, vanilla, I think typically was considered to have rum in it as well, which brings a bit of, depth and darkness and gourmand borderline booziness to it, but heavy on the tropical feel. But the nutmeg and cinnamon just add that warm spice in the background that it doesn't make it at all holiday. It just adds a richness and warmth to it that makes it even more warm, tropical versus the warmth that you bring to like a holiday candle. Definitely get, these are sister scents in that way. This one's a bit fresher, more spring-like, a little more pure. This one's a bit heavier because of, again, you've got a heavy hit of the coconut and of the rum that's in here, that this does not have any sort of like rum or tropical vibe to it. Maybe a slight bit of greens in this, similar to think of coconut leaves, but non-tropical. Then I figured, okay, well, nectar, let's compare it to Slatkin & Co. Island Nectar, an intoxicating island dream of sparkling tropical fruits blended seductively with lush vanilla, warming rum, and sensual musk. So that is Island Nectar. Oh my gosh, love this one. This leans a bit more towards a conceptual floral. Again, to me, it's almost like a room freshener, in a good way, but a room freshener sort of scent. Certainly the tropical fruits, the vanilla, more musk in this than, certainly this one is a bit more straightforward, your tropical spice. So the sweetness of Island Nectar, but there is more true floral in here, in my opinion, than you've got in the Fresh Nectar. You really get just, it's like mouthwatering, really. This tropical spice Fresh Nectar, sister scents for sure, going from spring into summer. So this one, yeah, it's just sweet. Think of honey, but without sort of the richness that honey brings. So just the sweetness of honey, of a honeysuckle nectar, with a little bit of creaminess, either creamy mint or a little bit of creamy vanilla in the background without going full-on foodie gourmand, keeping it fresh. A little bit of green, some sort of green leaves, but soft green leaves, not overly vegetal or a heavy green. And again, a soft, I want to say cinnamon spice in here, but it's just so lovely and comforting, but fresh. And you don't often get fresh, but warm. It's usually cooler or really intense or knock you over the head or very astringent. This is just soft and it's sweet. And it's just a really beautiful candle. Performance, as you can see, was really strong as well. Happy to have this. Would love to see this actually reimagined in some ways. But that is my From the Vault throwback for, I don't know if it's this week, this month. I'm not sure how often I'll do these videos, but let me know if there's anything that you would want to see that you haven't heard from me or others, or a scent from back in the day you'd love to see discussed, either if it's something you know that I have, or maybe something that I can find to get my nose in and whiff some wax. And I'll bring this series out on some sort of consistent basis so we can just kind of explore, fragrances that we, I, you, me, any of us have loved in the past. And until next time, take care.